the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Greetings and welcome, everyone, to this episode of AVNation TV's Connected. I'm your host, David Danto, and I have a co-host to the show. Tim, say hi to everybody, the founder of AVNation TV. That was it?
That was it. I mean, you said hi, so I said hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Tim.
Okay, so the hair's a thing now, right? It's just going to be you're going long, and that's the way it is.
The hair is a thing until I decide it's not a thing. I mean, I get my hair. I have a hairstylist touch my hair every 6 weeks. I almost said cut, but about 2 times ago, I was about done with it, and then I did an interview with a young man from Cedia who is about 10 years older than me and has a much more luscious head of hair. And I'm like, nope, if Peter can do it, I can do it.
Peter and Maldo and some of the other people. Okay, so let's not.
Okay, Maldo's a bit, yeah.
Maldo's You're not going to go purple. Okay, no problem. Our guest for this show is our good friend Steve Koenig. Steve, say hi to everybody. Remind everyone who you are and what you do.
Hi, everybody. And Dave, great to be back with you guys. Tim, good to be with you. And I'm Vice President of Research at Consumer Technology Association, the owner and producer of CES.
And as we are recording this, we've got another CES coming up, a CES 2024. I'm very privileged to have, I got to point the right side, that side, to have been an Innovation Awards judge again this year. It's my 7th time, which is really nice. First time in a bunch of years, but that's really nice. And we're really trying to figure out what's going on. CES has always been, and I've said this before, so I apologize if anybody's heard it. CES has always been one of the most important, or not the most important conference that I go to every year, not because of anything that I see, but because of the 30,000-foot view I'm able to get for what's really going on, what's happening in history, what's happening in technology, what's happening with the markets moving. And that's one way that we can really kind of figure everything out in the industry. So Steve, I assume this year's not going to be any different. It's just going to be another wild, big show with a lot of trends that you're working on in the background, right?
Well, as usual, but before I kind of break down some of the stats, if you like, for the show coming up in a few weeks, I just want to say thanks for helping out with Innovation Awards, David, because this year we had actually a record number of submissions, over 3,000 Innovation Awards submissions. That's a gain of like 40% versus for CES 2023. So thank you for doing an elephantine effort to judge all of those products and so forth. But
I appreciate that. And, you know, that's actually a tangent I want to go down just for a second before I let you go through everything.
Okay.
I have noticed both in the industry and both as a judge, without revealing anything that I can't reveal, that more and more of the innovations are coming from smaller and smaller organizations. That the big companies, M&A, they glom onto a brand or a logo, and they buy up the smaller companies, and the innovation sort of peters out and dies. And it's these smaller organizations that come up with things that are really wild and amazing.
Well, we get I'm glad you noticed. And also, I just think is just over the past 10 years and change, as technology has just diffused across the entire economy, that's also playing a role into just more of the going beyond the usual suspects, if you like. Now, we get plenty of submissions from those usual suspects as well, and a lot of great innovations coming from those larger tech companies. But you're right, a host and a very long tail, in fact, of those smaller SMEs, fantastic innovators, some of whom will be at Eureka Park, which will have over 1,000 startups from around the world. But a little bit about the show. I think we're going to be close to pre-pandemic proportions at CES 2024. It's going to be a fantastic event. We're expecting over 3,500 exhibitors from around the world. I mentioned the 1,000+ startups at Eureka Park. But in terms of attendance, probably over 130,000 trade professionals, again, from over 150 different countries, territories, and other regions. So a truly global event, and which is why we say that CES is the most powerful tech event on the planet. And certainly, I think there's going to be just no shortage of just cool gadgets, insightful trends, and just mind-blowing innovation, all at CES 2024.
Well, Steve, actually, I want to go down Eureka Park for a second because I made no bones. I had never been to CES before a couple of years ago, and Mr. Danto and you have been after me for years, and I finally got to it, right? And my favorite part, I love big, ginormous displays. Don't misunderstand. I like gadgets. I'm a big headphone junkie, and my kids will tell you I have more headphones and earbuds than I care to admit. But Eureka Park was my favorite part of that entire experience because, like you just said, it is hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have come up with an idea, right? A kernel of an idea, and they're able to it's not overly expensive. They're able to come there and network with other like-minded technologists, possibly connect with a larger company. And yes, we can talk about some of the dark side of M&A, but also some of the positive of M&A, or at least positive part of the capital that's available at CES. There was a gentleman there that had developed a biometric lock, right? So basically you put your thumbprint on it. Well, yeah. He got connected to Yale, right? Yale's like, well, this is great technology.
You're talking about Robbie Cabral of BenjiLock.
Yeah, BenjiLocks. So he gets in part of Yale. Those success stories, I think, is what makes Eureka Park so innovative and so exciting to me. Talk for a second about, without revealing anything, but some of the things that we should expect to see this year in that incubator.
Well, as I mentioned, over 1,000 startups from around the world. Several countries curate pavilions themselves, like the Netherlands and France, for example, but probably about a dozen of curated country level exhibit arenas that they're bringing startups over. And you're right about these nascent ideas, and a lot of them are looking for funding. And at CTA, we have an amazing program that actually connects startups with investors. It's called CTA Match, and that program actually runs a couple times a year. But CES is a major in-person connection point for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's truly amazing. So it's investors, I think, walk the halls of Eureka Park, but all of us as technologists also, I would say the enthusiasm, as you probably would agree, is palpable. It's just palpable, and they're so keen. And some of these ideas really are, I think, life-changing, world-changing, and have so much potential. And in fact, over the many years that Eureka Park has been part of CES, we've witnessed billions of dollars in funding for these startups, and that have really helped them, grow. And yes, some do get acquired, and I think that's just a natural part of business. But and those are business decisions. But it's just you could spend all 4 days of CES in 100%. Eureka Park, really.
Yep.
That's one of the things I learned early on in attending the show, and this is I didn't count, so I don't know, my 20th, my 25th, I don't know how many years I've been going there, something like that. It came to the point very early on after a few years that you realize that you cannot see the show. It is impossible for any one individual to see the show. You can either wander around and get a sense of it, or you can go with a team and divide and conquer and meet up every evening and have everybody share stories. But it's impossible. The show is too big for one person to really take it all in.
Well, that's certainly true. If you're going to take it in any meaningful measure, I mean, maybe it is physically possible to actually visit every booth, but that would be a sprint every day. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right. That's why when you register for CES, we make a lot of different planning tools like My Show Planner and Map My Show available, because we get it. It is a lot of territory to cover. In fact, CES 2024 will have over 2 million net square feet of space, net square feet meaning just under exhibit, not counting pathways and aisleways. So these planning tools are really helpful if you're going to CES. It's quite natural to feel overwhelmed, but these planning tools at ces.tech, using your ID that you create when you register, these can really be game changing for your experience, because you can literally map out day by day, where you're gonna be, and who you want to see, where they are, and it dispels all the confusion and madness when you get on the show floor. You've got a plan, so take advantage of this.
I want to get into the themes, but before that, and this is, if this is an unfair question, feel free not to answer it. Don't worry about it. But the what is open this year? What parts is the South Hall back open? South, North, Central, and West? Is it the what are we doing with? What are we dealing with?
Yeah, no, just over in the LDCC area, you're going to have Central and North, and then of course the shiny brand new West Hall. And then of course at Venetian, you'll have the promenade area, and then Eureka Park down on that main floor. And then over at Aria and Vidara, that's where the C-Space exhibits and C-Space stage and so forth, conferences over there. So those are the major domains.
And I think this is the first year, it might be the second, that the Venetian, the Sands Expo is now called the Venetian Expo, since it's now
Venetian Expo, that's the proper name. Yeah, but you know how it is, these old names, they linger and stick around, and we tend to still use them. But yes, Venetian Exposition.
And if you go there, you're in walking distance of the new Sphere, which is definitely something to go take a look at in town.
A lot of people, I think, and I reckon will be venturing over that way. I definitely think so.
Okay, well, Tim and I will be there in town earlier than that for a digital signage show that's taking place. So we'll get it out of our system early. So what are you highlighting as the top themes for the show this year?
Sure. Well, I would say first and foremost, artificial intelligence will be really, I think, the most omnipresent of technologies and trends thereof. Obviously, this whole year, there's been a lot of buzz and news around generative AI, and just all kinds of different companies are employing various aspects of Gen AI with their own data, with customer data, whatever it is. But what's interesting about CES is that really we'll be able to explore AI and the contributions it's making beyond just generative AI, which has really just dominated headlines and a lot of the discussion around AI, but thinking about computer vision, advancements there, also natural language processing, thinking about like digital assistants and being able to speak to machines and have them understand and then them speak back. But also robotic process automation, very, very important for automating, whether it's with robots or just other processes. But machine learning, deep learning, and these will be, there'll be examples of these from health technology and medicine right on through to agriculture and entertainment. So that's going to be the overarching, I think, major theme. You'll encounter AI and talking points around AI virtually at every booth at CES. But beyond that, I mean, there's a very long list of other very important and meaningful trends that we're delighted to see all the innovation thereof. Robotics, food technology, beauty tech is another that will be featured, which has been a trend over the past several years. But interestingly, L'Oreal of beauty industry fame is actually giving a keynote at the show. And that's a first. So beyond those trends, sustainability will also be another key theme. So there's just, and I can go on, but those are some of the big ones I think that we'll be able to see. Food and agriculture tech. I think I mentioned food tech, but we can't forget John Deere and the autonomous tractors and other heavy equipment over in West Hall. Always a showstopper.
Well, and Steve, you mentioned something there when you going down the road of AI, and you mentioned John Deere, right? And agriculture is certainly there. You have beauty, transportation, all sorts of things. When somebody looks at CES, and this again, my perspective from the outside looking in until I went was, well, okay, this is a big giant tech show that that folks that are going to geek out on big TVs go to. When you're talking to folks, who should go to this? Because it feels like there's a little bit for everybody. And there's a lot for some folks, but who should attend CES and at least go for a couple of days?
Well, remember, CES is a trade only or industry only event. So we're not open to the general public, in other words. But that definition has really broad applications as we see and we witness across the show floor with all the different brands from L'Oreal to John Deere and everything in between. So the fact that technology now really overlays the entire economy and various sectors thereof, industry folk come from just a wide variety of backgrounds. But I think really if anyone in business that is leveraging technology, which is most business people these days, there's going to be something of interest, of deep interest at CES. And of course, those of us that are kind of in the tech industry proper, I would say CES is a must-see event and waypoint on the calendar each and every year.
And Steve, this is a conversation you and I have had multiple times over the course of the last 2 years, hallway conversations, video conversations, all the conversations. Let's take 2 or 3 minutes to talk about metaverse. The idea that the internet of internets would connect up and there would be connections in all kind of different ways was essentially inevitable. Anybody who looked at it realized that that's the direction that we would be going in. But this is a word where the hype mouth actually ate the tail. It was the perfect serpent where it blew up on hype and people are embarrassed.
Ouroboros is the word you're looking for.
Ouroboros, yes, Ouroboros. Thank you very much. I didn't want to necessarily make that reference because people might go like Marvel and Loki, but that's okay. What's the lesson to be learned from metaverse? I mean, there are still metaverse technologies being talked about at the show, but I doubt that anybody's going to have it on a poster. I doubt that anybody's going to have it on a handout. I doubt that anybody's going to be talking about it, and that's because they're embarrassed to be.
Well, on that point, you might be surprised, but I think you are right that definitely we're over the hype hurdle with metaverse, and I think as I mentioned in my remarks for CES 2023, really there's two chief domains. You've got the consumer and more enterprise, and I think that early on there was a lot of enthusiasm and hype around on the consumer front. And different things that would be happening with virtual worlds and so forth. Actually, what's turned out to be true, and we predicted this and we pointed to this at CES 2023, and this is where I think metaverse will be experienced at CES 2024, is more along the lines of industrial metaverse. So thinking about digital twins, and I know that Siemens is part of that story, but there will be others talking about industrial metaverse and how this, along with digital twins, is starting to be incorporated into various designs and planning and so forth. That being said, there still is a very large quotient of metaverse type, and it might be fair to just let's just call it XR technologies. And the constellation of supporting technologies like haptics, for example. We actually have an area in Central Hall dedicated to XR metaverse technologies. So that's where folks will be able to go to really lean into the current state of metaverse more on the consumer front. But we'll get a flavor for. I don't think they'll necessarily be saying metaverse potentially, but certainly for some of the things that represent that, like I mentioned with digital twins and how that, along with AI, is being incorporated. Because you could say, I think, really the same thing about generative AI is I think some would say maybe we're starting to crest in terms of the narrative around generative AI, and maybe everybody's had a heaping helping of that so far this year. And that's not really that interesting to them. So, but be that as it may, I think AI will be a big topic at the show, as I mentioned. But metaverse, not as big as 23, but still there, and still I think a meaningful trend, just more on the enterprise side than in consumer.
Okay. When does a technology start to become so commoditized that you may not see it at the conference anymore, or does that even happen? I mean, I'm thinking about the birth of Betamax and VHS, and we're all now doing digital recordings, which, by the way, are not transportable. So I guess we won and we lost that one at the same time. But the large screen displays, which there's still going to be plenty of this year. In fact, some short throw projection and laser projection, which rival some large screen displays, and the roll up screens and the roll up and roll down. But at what point does it become commoditized? A lot of the big players in displays, aren't even making them anymore because they can't make money on them. So is that a natural trend for everything, or is that only a few things?
Well, I think that's just kind of part of business and the product life cycle, where you have, across the product life cycle, you have these venerable categories like TVs that are heavily commoditized. The annual shipment run rate in the US is right around 40 million units per year. So that's quite a few TVs being shipped each year just in the United States alone. But just witness the innovation that's taking place in that space, and to the delight of consumers as competition drives down prices and makes these technologies more affordable. Because everybody wants at least I think so, a bigger screen each and every time they upgrade. Let's go a little bit bigger. Let's go a little bit bigger, and happily those screens are out there. But yeah, so all these tech, whether it's all these core devices from laptops and all these screen devices, TVs, laptops, smartphones, tablets, all these, we still continue to see tremendous innovation, and they're present at CES. So it may not be the latest, coolest thing, if you like, but there's still a lot of just fascinating innovation that's taking place that are continuing to improve picture quality on TVs. We know about quantum dot and OLED and so forth, but there will be new advances that will make those images on those screens even more lifelike. And we talked about XR earlier. There's another, not yet a commodity, but another one that's just rapidly developing in terms of the wearable device itself, lighter, more comfortable, so you can wear it longer, ostensibly. So yeah, all those things will be at the show. But I personally, even though TVs are commoditized and they're still, I think, the king technology across American households, there's a lot that I look forward to every year, and I would say TVs among them. I want to see the latest and greatest TVs and just see how impossibly thin they are, and how big they can get, and just how lifelike the images are on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, if somebody's, either they've not gone or they haven't gone for a few years, what advice would you give to them if they're trying to carve up this show? I mean, Danto and we all know this, CES is a ginormous show. One person can't, right? You can't see everything. So how would you carve it up? And just speak generically, obviously, depending on what your interests are, but generically, how would you attack CES?
Yeah, well, like I said, online, I mean, it depends on interest areas. I would start there. What are the areas of interest that you're hoping to see? Or it could be what's the list of brands and so forth. But looking at the show through the lens of different themes, I think, is helpful. And we do our part to try and curate to some extent. Like I'll give you an example. In North Hall, we have the health technology area. And that's where you'll find exhibitors and companies great and small, from the likes of Abbott, that we know well, to very small, probably startup level small businesses in health technology. And then just adjacent to that is really an area for more AI, robotics. We have smart cities. And then, of course, West Hall is all about transportation, automotive, autonomous driving, vehicle tech, and so forth. So I think I would start with these interest areas and then go to the show map and let that guide you on where you need to be.
So let me ask you, and forgive me if this is an uncomfortable question, because I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anyone on the spot, but when we talk about and I want to get my years right, 2022 was the virtual show, right? Or no, 2022 is the show that that it was not virtual for the first time. 21 was virtual.
Right.
22, not a lot of people went. We got out the free Binax test kits, which was, by the way, Abbott was the greatest swag in the world. There was a big trend of companies who didn't bother to attend that year, who reported on the show anyway because of pre-briefs. And now this is more of a trade show question than it's a CES question. You know, Tim and I have been to thousands, if not millions, over the course of our lifetime, and lots of different ones. And at some point, most of them have had to say, you know what, if you're going to be at the show, you've got to be at the show. No more of this thing off to the side, or this thing you do a week earlier, or this introduction you do somewhere else. You're either going to be attending and part of it, or you're not. And has CES gotten to that point where, you know, all these pre-briefs, all the people who didn't show up in 22 because they had their pre-brief, so they reported as if they attended it anyway. I mean, is that something you guys are aware of and trying to get a bit of a handle on?
Well, for example, there's no virtual component for CES 2024. And I think that virtual component was necessary for a season, but now things have really swung back to the primacy of in-person events. And so, as I mentioned, there is no virtual CES 2024, but companies still will, you know, they make their announcements, and then that may be, you know, right now we're starting to see a rising tide of press releases from different brands that will be exhibiting, previewing, you know, because they're trying to attract attention, and they want to get on people's plans for the show as they're attending. But yeah, I think that was more of a temporary phenomenon. One other interesting trend that I've noticed, and this is again more, like you said, more of a trade show dynamic than a CES specific dynamic, but there are many booths that still have more of an open format, and there seems to be a growing number, still small, and these tend to be the larger exhibits that are more curated. They have a queue, and I like to. I think it's synonymous to like a haunted house, where you're walking through, you know, a specific pathway through the booth and experiencing it in dedicated vignettes, if you like. So we may see a little bit more of that here and there. Again, from larger brands, bigger booths, but several that are still kind of the open dynamic. So that's one thing I think that will be interesting to see, is that the booth design is starting to also change, and brands are starting to be a little bit more curated, maybe in their approach of telling their story at the show.
Well, you have to, right? Because, you know, number one, it's an investment. It's an investment in time, obviously, and money. But you've got a different clientele, and that clientele evolves over the years. And, you know, Danto mentioned the one in 22, where you had, you know, again, first of all, that was my first time, and you know, David said it was a perfect one to go to because it was less attended, and apparently the restaurants, you know, aren't always open whenever you want at CES, but you have to, because you know you've got larger brands, but also you have a differentiating of a buyer. Right. I mean, it's, you know, whether that is, you know, the buyer for a convenience store or a large chain, these folks really are departmentalizing, I guess, if I can use a word, what they're looking for. And so what the buyer for Target is looking for is certainly different than what the one for Kohl's is. Yeah, they're both department stores, but they're still, you know, distinctly different audiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true, and I think you're onto something there. With you know, it is an investment, and I think that brands maybe want to have more of a tailored and kind of guided experience to communicate their key messages. But at the same time, there's plenty of kind of choose your own adventure type booths and so forth. And the other thing I love about CES is that you have these tremendous, I mean, talking about investments, I mean, millions of dollars spent on these experiences, huge brand presence, whether it's indoors or outdoors. But then you also have just these small companies with a 10 by 10 booth, and they still have some amazing tech, an amazing experience. Yeah, maybe there's not, big colorful lights and a stage with performers like we've sometimes seen at the show, but it's still at its heart. It's just such incredible innovation. Some of it has more window dressing than others, but at its heart, it's still just raw technology innovation that is just so game changing and cool. But yeah, it's going to be neat to see. Again, whether you're at Tech East or Tech West, there's going to be a ton of innovation to see.
So
It was 22 where Tom Holland showed up, so that was the window dressing there.
Yeah.
Over the years, I mean, I've seen private Huey Lewis on the news while he was still performing. We had some private showings of theirs, and some amazing experiences that I've had at CES that I would never have anywhere else. So I do appreciate that, and we do need to comment about the fact that just as we're recording this now, the deluge of press and analyst emails is just starting. We're starting to get 3, 4, 5 a day. As we get through December, close to Christmas, it's going to be something like 50, 60, 70 a day. We still get a few during the show. And then there are the 3 or 4 we get when the show's over, which I always reply saying, look, if you want me to see that, we need a seance. So it just expect the emails to come through if you're registered. Steve, give us the logistics as a sort of a wrap up here as a last question. If anybody wants to attend the show, where do they go? Where is it taking place? What are the dates? How do they find out?
Yes, no problem. Yeah, well, so basically to register, you would go to ces.tech/register. And the show will be the 9th to the 12th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. It's a Tuesday through Friday event. And so a lot of people like that. It's all during the work week, not overlapping the weekend. Yeah, and get registered because I think the price goes up soon. But much success. And again, those planning tools are there that I mentioned before. So take advantage of those because they can really, really, I think, boost your CES experience because you'll attend the show with a plan in hand.
And from the bottom of my heart, thank you again for the few years where you start CES not right after New Year's, where there's a little bit of a break, because that makes life a lot easier for everybody.
That's why they did it, Danto, because it makes your life easier.
No, I'm sure that's not why they did it. That's probably
the show dates change. The show dates change from year to year, and last year was a little early. But yes, this is, I think, one that's more of a happy medium between later and earlier. So it should be pretty manageable. And like I said, everybody likes it when the show is contained during the work week and not like fully overlapping the weekend or even starting on the weekend.
Yeah, well, you get some of the press conferences taking place on that Sunday and Monday.
Right.
And,
yes, this is true. This is true on those two media days.
But absolutely, I mean, the biggest prayer that I'm hoping for is nothing to do with CS. I hope they've taken down all the F1 gates. It was a mess in Las Vegas the last time I was there. So I'm kind of hoping that the city will look a little bit more like normal, which isn't normal for any city. They say that the city flag symbol is a traffic cone, but let's hope that we can all get around relatively easily and do things.
Well, CES has a lot of transportation options, and those options can also be seen and reviewed and so forth at ces.tech, whether it's our shuttle buses from hotels that take you to different show venues, or the Venetian Express that goes back, or we have the new Teslas in the tunnel, the Vegas Loop, and that's another great way to get between venues, at least from Central Hall environs over to West Hall. Very, very convenient and quick. It just puts you on the far side of West, which is not that big. That way you can work your way back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I used last year, and it was very convenient. And one bit of advice that I'll give from a personal standpoint, having attended the show so many times before, when you plan out what you're going to be doing for the days that you're there. Try and make your plan so that you're not spending the middle of the day in the transportation. No matter how good it is, don't plan on going to Hall A and then transport to Hall B and then transport to Hall A or Hall C, because that's, spend a day, at the convention center, spend a day at the Venetian, spend a day wherever you're going to be. Try and avoid getting stuck in the middle of traffic, because even with the best shuttles and transportation, it's a schlep and you're wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, and obviously the Las Vegas taxis are omnipresent everywhere. But for me, I've had a lot of success with Uber and Lyft as well, and we have dedicated pickup points around the show for that. So that makes it usually easy and convenient. But you're right, David. It's the logistics can be challenging, so you're better sticking to one location for the day, and you'll be better off for that.
Tim, any last words from you before we close this out?
No, I mean, I would, again, I'm heading in this year. We're bringing Patrick along from our team, who's been not as many times as David, but still quite a few. So I'm looking forward to having that experience as well.
Let's have you and I, and maybe we can get a hold of some of the other influencers in the space, get together and do a show from there.
Yep.
We can figure out the logistics and get a room, and maybe we can even get Evan Christel and some of the other guys to come along if they're at the show this year and talk about what they've seen.
I like it.
Steve, thanks very much. If anybody wants to reach out to you, wants any more information from you, or just wants to reach out to you personally, how would you suggest they get in touch?
Yeah, email is just skoenig@cta.tech. Happy to answer any questions. And again, to get more information about CES, it's ces.tech. And ces.tech/register to get signed up for CES. We'll see you there.
Steve, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving everybody the preview, what to look for this year and what to think about at the show. And we will hopefully see you soon.
Thank you.
How can somebody get in touch with you, Tim?
You can get a hold of me. Don't get a hold of me. Go to the website, AVNation.tv, which Dave is going to say in a second.
Okay, so let's go to AVNation.tv to find out more information. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Connected. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.